In this video, we're going to talk about how to write an equation given 2 points using a graph. So get this written into your table of contents, and then we'll have to put this graph paper into your notebook as well. So we're going to start with the points 2, 5, and 4, 9. Okay, in order to graph this, we need to actually draw out a graph. So we're going to draw our x and y axis about half of the page or so. I'm going to count each grid line as 1. So this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. So I'm going to graph my first point. So I want to label my x and my y. So my x is always the first point in my ordered pair, and my y is always the second. And I'm going to find my x and my y together so they make 1 point. So I'm going to go 2 on my x. So 1, 2, and then 5 on my y. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that is my first point. And both of them go there together. And then I'm going to go 4 on my x. 1, 2, 3, 4. And 9 on my y. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Right up there. And they go together. Now, just like we talked about last week, we're going to find our slope. So I'm going to find my rise and my run. Rise is our change in y, and run is our change in x. So I rose 1, 2, 3, 4, and I went over 2. So my slope is 4 halves, which is the same as 2 wholes, or 2 over 1. So now I know my slope. Let me write that down so I don't lose it. The slope is 2. And I need to find my y-intercept. So I want to work my way backwards to my y-intercept because it's where I cross the y-axis. So it needs to go this way. So I'm going to use my slope of 2 over 1 to write out more points. So instead of going up 2 over 1 every time, which would be right here, or from here to here, right there, I'm going to go down 2, backwards 1, down 2, backwards 1. I can keep going down 2, backwards 1, down 2, backwards 1, but I know that my y-intercept is right there because that's where I'm crossing the y-axis. So my y-intercept in this equation is 1. I'm going to put all of that information together to write my equation, and I get y equals mx plus b. And I'm going to replace my y with, just kidding, I'm not going to replace my y. Y is going to stay y. I'm going to replace my m with 2, x stays x, and I'm going to replace my b with a 1. Now, these numbers aren't always going to work out as perfectly as this did and as nicely as this did, but using a graph will always work. You just might have more steps involved to it. So in the next example, we'll look at what to do when the numbers don't work perfectly. So for our next example, we're going to use the points 3, 6, and 5, 7. Okay? So I'm going to label my x and my y first. X's always come first in our ordered pairs. Y's always come second in our ordered pairs. And now I'm going to draw out my x and my y axis for my coordinate grid. About half a page or so. Typically don't use the negative side as much, so we can make that part a little bit smaller. I'm going to graph, so I have 3, 6, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 5, 7. So I already went 3, 1, 2, and I already went 6, so there's one more. All right, so I'm going to write out my slope by finding my rise over my run, or my change in y over my change in x. So I'm looking for how much did I go up and how much did I go over. So I went up 1 and I went over 2. So that means my slope is 1/2. Now I'm going to use that to go backwards. So instead of going up 1 and over 2, I'm going to go down 1 and backwards 2. And then I'm going to go down 1 and backwards 2. Now we didn't draw a point on our y-intercept, but if I connected these in a straight line using either a ruler or a straight edge of some kind and connected them in a straight line, I can see that I would have crossed my y-axis right here. which if I estimate is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's about the half. I drew my line a little bit off, so my y-intercept would be about 4.5. So using a graph isn't always going to give us the exact information that we need, but it'll be pretty darn close. So I'm going to write out my equation now. I have y equals mx plus b. Y stays y. M becomes 1/2. X stays x. Plus my b, which is 4 1/2. Okay? I would like you to try this set of points with your group. When you are finished, come and show me and let me know. So we're going to have 1, 5, and 4, 8. Okay, when you finish that, let me know.